Hello everyone, this tutorial is about RESTful web services in Java. Let's move on to the topic. First, what is a web service? It is a Java class which is exposed over internet so that its public method can be accessed over the internet using the HTTP protocol. This HTTP protocol can be seen in the URL of the web browser during any search when we are accessing any web service. So, when a client is accessing any web service means it has to be connected to the internet. Generally, there are two types of web services, SOAP and REST. What is a REST? REST stands for Representational State Transfer. Here, we have to know about two words, representational and state. Representational means the data can be sent in any forms like XML or JSON from the server to the client or the client to the server. Then the state means state of the server object which can be changed by the RESTful call. That is, the RESTful call can change the state like from post or delete like that. So the states can be post or delete or get for update and delete methods respectively. The change of state can happen in both server side and client side. This table gives the relationship between SQL and HTTP. For the action create, we are using the HTTP verbs put, and for read, get, update, post, delete and delete. These methods are used with annotation which we can see later in our code. RESTful is the transformed representation of the data that results in either client or server side. Then JAX-RS is used for the annotation which will be used in our code to invoke any method. So for using this JAX-RS, we are using Jersey, which is one of the vendors of JAX-RS. We have to add that library files for RESTful web service. RESTful web service use URI and HTTP request method to call any method. This URI pattern I will show you later. Give you the path to access any method, and HTTP request methods can be those post or delete like that. This is the overall architecture of RESTful web services in Java. This is the client side, which will mainly the UI page for the client, which sends requests to the server, and server makes use of databases, either SQL Server or Oracle Server. In my project, I make use of MySQL database. The software needed for this RESTful web services in Java are JDK6, Jessie for JAX-RS, Eclipse IDE, Apache Tomcat Server, and MySQL database. This is the client tier, application and database tier diagram. This is the overall diagram for the client tier, application tier and database tier. Then automated web service client send HTTP request to the resource request handler in the web tier. That is, this sends a request to the web tier, and the stateless request from the client contain the method information in the header. As I told you earlier, that post, get, put and delete, which are mapped to the corresponding operations. Each request contains all the necessary information, including credentials for the request handler to process the request. So here it's sending the request. Then after receiving a request from web service client, the resource request handler requests the service from the business logic layer. The resource request handler identifies all the conceptual entities that the system exposes as resources and assigns a unique URI to each of them. Then the resource request handler can be implemented using Jersey or another framework such as RESTlet, which is an alternative for Jersey, and should be lightweight, mainly delegating the heavy duty work due to the business tier. The data store tier includes the database system, as I mentioned earlier, LDAP servers, file system and enterprise information system, including legacy systems, etc. Then the client server connection. The client server connection mainly deals with sending a request to the server and invoking the methods. So we have to initially create a dynamic web project for the server side. For that, in Eclipse, file, new, here dynamic web project. Here you have to give the project name and you have to give next, for example, next. You have to generate the web.xml for the deployment descriptor I will explain about the deployment descriptor later. Then you have to give finish. I already created a server side project REST web here. In that project you have to create a new Java page. For that you have to right click, new and class. Here you have to give the project name, package name as com.service.user and name as user services, like that. So you have to give that. Okay, I already created, so it shows an error, type already exists. Here it is the code for user services. Here at put means it is the annotation for the put method, and at path create means it is the path to invoke this method. These are different annotations for different methods, and here it is it get user ID means while accessing this post method, it invokes this method and get this attributes as form parameters from the UI page. Then these attributes are added in the user.java page. For that you have to create another Java page, new, same procedure as user services.java. Here you have to give us user.java. In that user.java you have to declare all these attributes and generates getters and setters for these attributes. Then this is the database connection. I will explain you about the database connection in the next stage. So this is the query for inserting into the table name. Table name is client new. This question marks represent the positions to be inserted in the table. So after all the values are inserted in the table, it will show inserted and it produces a JSON replay, because here I give the notation at produces application JSON, so it produces a JSON replay. So for the client side, create another dynamic web project, same as REST web. Here you have to give the client project. Here I created new client. So here you have to create the UI page and the servlet page to for accessing those methods. First.jsp is my UI page. Here I am giving some text boxes and a button to go to the client servlet page. So it will go to the client servlet page here. Here in the do post method, I am getting the attributes as parameters and adding those parameters in the form, and here I am giving the URI pattern. So it goes to the path and access this method get user ID. After that it will replay response as JSON replay, and after all these things, if I give, it will go to the update.jsp, otherwise it will stop at this level. So this is the client server connection by giving this URI pattern and HTTP methods. And also as I show earlier, the get user ID is denoted in the post annotation method. So you have to give post here, the client response link. It will go to that annotation and go to this particular URI. For likewise, we can also create servlets for update and delete functions, and we have to give that particular URI here. For for update method, you have to give this you have to give the function as this, like this. So in this put annotation I giving the URI put update and subject ID is my primary key. So this subject ID I am passing it as reference. So with this reference it is updating the table values, and I have to pass this reference as path parameter and other attributes as the form parameters. Then this is the query for the update, where sub id equal to IT means I am putting it as reference. Then the same procedure as inserting. Then for delete also I am passing a parameter as for reference. With that reference I am deleting that row from the table name. Delete from, this is the table name and this is the reference to for delete. So for different functions we have to create different servlets. In that servlet we have to give the link to the URI link to do the particular function or to invoke that particular method. Next, let us see about the database connection in the Eclipse. For database connection you have to go to the data source explorer. In that database connection, right click on that, then new. It will show you a list of databases. I am here creating a MySQL database. For that you have to initially install MySQL in your system, then how to create that MySQL database. MySQL, here you have to give a name for your MySQL database. You can give it as MySQL or anything you want. Then next, initially you have to give the driver for MySQL JDBC. You have to go to new driver definition. Here you have to select this one, and the jar is you have to add the MySQL connector Java 5.1.0 jar. It will also show you the jar file which you have to be included here. Then you have to add that and you have to give OK. Then here it is the details. The database name, here it is database. Then the password is while installing MySQL in your system, you will give a password. So that password has to be given here, and you have to test the connection. If the connection is not succeeded means you can change the database name as test or MySQL, or while changing here you have to change also here, and you have to test the connection. If the ping is succeeded means the database is successfully created. When it is successfully created it will show here. I am created a database named new MySQL. To connect that database you have to right click on that connect. So when this symbol is shown here means it is connected. For doing the MySQL functions you have to create a SQL page in the client side. For that right click on the client side project, new, then SQL file. So you have to give some file name, and the database server type is MySQL 5.1, and the connection profile name is what you have created, that database name. You have to give that and give finish. So the database will be created. So here you can run the queries and check the outputs for the database. Then directory service. For generating a web service, this is the bottom up and top down web service deployment. First, the application server includes the web service implementation and web service message interface. Then we have to register the web service in the UDDI, which is the bottom up development, or the top down development means from UDDI to the application server. For creating a web service, we have these are the procedures. From the user server side project you have to go to new, then new project and web service. Next, in that you have to here you should not make any changes to the client side bar, only to the server side bar, because if you are making any changes to this bar means it will create another client side project which we do not want. So we should not make any changes to this client side project bar. Then the lower section contains two check boxes. that is publish the web service and monitor the web service, which allow you to select whether the web service is to be published to UDDI or to be monitored. Publish the web service means publishing it to the UDDI or monitoring the web service. Then before clicking the finish, tick the monitor the web service. This will help you to instruct Eclipse to start the TCP IP monitor, which display the messages that are sent between Eclipse and the web service. Then when you do click finish, Eclipse will start to create and deploy the web service and make client for testing the service. This action may take some time, so you may need to some patience, although Eclipse will report the progress made. Then assembly. A Java EE application is packaged into one or more standard units for deployment to any Java EE platform compliance system. Each unit contains two components, a functional component or components such as an enterprise bean, web page, servlet, etc. and an optional deployment descriptor that describes its contents. I will explain you about this deployment descriptor in the next stage. Then once a Java EE unit has been produced, it is ready to be deployed. So deployment typically involves using a platform's deployment tool to specify location specific information such as a list of local users who can access it and the name of the local database. Once deployed on a local platform, the application is ready to run. Then the deployment descriptor. Java applications use a deployment descriptor file to determine how URLs map to servlets, which URLs require authentication and other information. This file is named as web.xml and it is located in the web.inf directory. Then web.xml is part of the servlet standard for web applications. A web application deployment descriptor describes the classes, resources and configuration of the application and how the web server uses them to serve web requests. When the web server receives a request for the application, it uses the deployment descriptor to map the URL of the request to the code that ought to handle the request. Therefore, it specifies what servlets you want to use and what URLs you want to map them to, and the listeners, these are the classes that are notified when some events happen, and configuration parameters, error pages, security constraints. But in Servlet 3.0, many of the web.xml parts are optional. This configuration can be done via annotation at web servlet and at web listener. This at web servlet annotation can be seen in the servlet pages. And there are two types of deployment descriptors. They are Java EE deployment descriptor and runtime. A Java EE deployment descriptor is defined by Java EE specification, and a runtime deployment descriptor is used to configure Java EE implementation specification parameters. For example, the Glassfish server runtime deployment descriptor contains such information as the context root of a web application. The Glassfish server runtime deployment descriptor are named as Glassfish module type.xml and are located in the same meta-inf directory as the Java EE deployment descriptor. I will show you the web.xml deployment descriptor in my project. Yeah. In the Restful project, under the web content and web.inf, you can find the deployment descriptor web.xml file. Here you have to mention the servlet class, servlet name like that. This is the coding for my web.xml page. So Jersey framework works on the servlet framework. So in order to give control to Jersey from one code to another, from our code, we need to declare that in the web.xml of server side project. So I am here declaring the Jersey framework. Then move on to the service discovery. Web services can be located through a public service business registry, a private business registry, or a WSIL document. This WSIL is an alternative for UDDI registry for service discovery. UDDI manages discovery of web services by relying on a distributed registry of businesses and their service description implemented in a common XML format. Prerequisites for this UDDI service discovery are register with the registry, then launch the Web Services Explorer, add the registry to the Web Services Explorer. You can discover a web service in two ways, as I mentioned before, using the UDDI registry or using the WSIL document. So the overall procedure for creating a RESTful web services in Java project is, first you have to create a server-side project. In the server-side project, you have to create one Java file named for example user services.java, as I mentioned here. In that you have to give different annotations and different path parameters. In that you have to give the functions to be performed when invoking that particular methods, and you have to create another Java file for declaring those parameters. And in the client side you have to create a database connection, and you have to create different servlet for invoking different methods while performing different functions like delete, insert, update, like that. And also in the client side you have to create one Java file namely user.java to also declare those parameters in the client side. And also you have to make changes to the web.xml, that is the deployment descriptor, in order to make the JSF framework works for our code. After finishing all those works, we have to run the JSP file, and we have to check whether the functions are working properly. Then we have for service discovery, first we have to create a web service. From the server side project we have to create a web service, and we should not make any changes to the client side bar, and we should make changes to the server side bar. Then we have to select all those things, and we have to tick the checkbox monitor the web service. And if you are ticking the publish web service, means it will make publishing to the UDDI registry. And for service discovery there are two methods are present. One is WSIL and another is UDDI registry. By either accessing these two methods we can register our service. This is the procedure for creating this project, and I will show you the code screens for my project. Yeah, this is the code for user services.java. this is my web.xml in the client side project, and this is the user.java. Both in the server side and client side I am using the same coding. So you have to create two files, one in the server side and one in the client side. You can generate all this automatically by using the getters and setters in the Eclipse, and this is the client servlet code. You have to make changes only in the do post method for client servlet. Then this is my UI page in this client side. Actually I am using some style sheets. You can also download some templates and may do some changes in that, and you can use it for your purpose. Here I am giving the form action client servlet. So by after clicking the button on this JSP page, it goes to the client servlet, which will invoke the method in the user services. Yeah, you can also view all the contents from your table by using this query. Select start from client means your timetable by passing the primary key, and you have to get all those parameters and you have to view it. So the coding for view function is here. This is the coding for web.xml, the deployment descriptor in the server side project. This is the coding for update servlet, as it updates the data in the table. So here it is the code for update servlet. It will go to this URL and updates the table with this parameter as the reference, and this mobile is my primary key in the table. And it will also returns the output in JSON form. Then here it is the code for delete servlet. Here it is passing the mobile as reference for deleting the query, for deleting the values from the table. So it will goes to this URI. So till now we have seen the procedures, coding, all those things stuffs in the RESTful web services in Java. So I have created a sample UI page for online mobile recharge system, and here are the values to be get from the client, and while for on insert it will insert the all those values into the table, and also it goes to the next page. Here it is the next page. Here it also the show the values from the first page, and you can make changes to it by updating this update, or you can delete these values by delete. If you click payments, it will go to the view page, which shows all the contents you have entered. Thank you for watching this video.